social intelligence with some different case studies here. Okay, so with that here, basically speaking, Digimind is a global company that has really only had one main mission, which is to help provide our clients a big picture view of the world as it reacts to different situations and events. And we've been pretty darn successful at that for the past going on 2 decades now. Part of the reason for that is because we do have that global presence, as I mentioned, so it's allowed us access to a lot more different niche networks here. So these are just some of the clients that have come to rely on us over the years. So we work with everyone from CPG brands like Nike, government organizations like the United States Postal Service, pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson. I mean, you name it, we work with them. Okay. And this is just some of the current coverage that we have, which is probably the main reason why we have so many different brands working with us here. So we have access to different social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, so on and so forth here. News, blogs, forums, review websites. We have tremendous coverage in the APAC region. So we have coverage for Badu, Weibo, TensorQQ, WeChat, vContact. We also have really good coverage when it comes to traditional media as well, because we're trying to provide a big picture view of the world as it reacts to different situations and events, especially during the stay-at-home period. It's really important to kind of be able to know where we should be spending our media budgets, right? So is traditional media still making sense or not? Yes or no? And we'll have the ability to kind of show you guys that here. So we have access to over 22 countries and 2,000 channels worth of television and radio. Then we also have just recently added in, probably within the last 4 weeks here, access to the LinkedIn organic conversation. So it's kind of a keyword-based analysis, which is very different from everyone else. Where everyone else is kind of doing an owned account analysis, we're doing keyword analysis. So we can search for specific things across the publicly available conversation. We also have the ability now to kind of integrate with a lot more different offline sources, which has been a big focus for Digimind in 2020. So just some of the integrations that we have available here is Salesforce, Zendesk, HubSpot, Yammer, Slack, Jive. We also have the ability to import from SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics. We have a full read-write API, so if there's anything that kind of falls outside of our normal, we're able to code it in. We're also the only listening vendor that has access to the Zapier marketplace, which if you guys aren't familiar with, is basically a marketplace that has over 2,000 apps available in it that we can kind of, within a couple clicks, integrate with. Okay, so this has been extremely important, being able to kind of have offline sources to correlate to our online sources. This way we have that big picture view like I've been talking about here, to kind of see what's accurate and what's not, if there's any type of false positive reads, this type of thing. Okay. And then this is just some of the recent awards that we won. Just so you guys are aware, we are a strong performer Forrester for 2020. And we were a leader in intelligence in 2019 as well. Okay. And so now we're getting into what we're actually supposed to be talking about today, being insights driven. And now more than ever, especially during the stay-at-home period, there's just so much conversation that can be captured. I think across the board, we've probably seen about a 200% uptick in overall conversation. It doesn't even matter the industry that we're talking about or the source. Just in general, people are able to leave more content or feedback regardless of where it is. So there's really kind of 3 things that we need to be able to access: known trends, unknown trends, and search trends. Okay. And more often than not, the typical usage for social listening is going to be your marketing staples, your influencer identification, your campaign analysis, brand protection. But now really, if you want to be kind of innovation motivated, you should be doing things like trend tracking, competitive intelligence, consumer insights, things of that nature. Okay. And the data is never going to stop growing here, where we have almost half the world's total population being a social media user. Which means we have basically total penetration of almost 50% to the total human population on the planet, which is absolutely insane. Which just kind of proves the point that it's too risky not to integrate web and social intelligence into your marketplace for competitive and consumer insights. Okay. And this is kind of getting to what I was talking about before, where we're just seeing unprecedented levels of overall conversation throughout this pandemic that we're currently all in, right? So this is kind of very, very interesting in that you can see across the board here, just tremendous spikes in total conversation across a lot of different things, whether it's actual climate change events, any type of civil rights movements, anything that's kind of pandemic related. Just as a whole, there's just too much conversation out there now to not be able to take advantage of. Okay. And then this, if you didn't believe me so far, Forrester actually also did a study on this, where now social listening is considered an essential technology in this pandemic. Okay, so you can see here, social listening platforms are definitely listed as an essential technology to have access to right now during this time period. Okay. And now this is just talking a little bit about consumer insights in the digital era, where almost 70% of companies here are using digital insights to enhance their overall customer experience. And over 80% of them believe that this is one of the most important things they can be doing to improve their overall process. So now the challenge becomes, how do we effectively gather and break down this mountain of data to make it into an actionable insight, right? So here's one use case that we have here where we're understanding consumer wants and needs using social data. This is really going to be able to kind of help drive total kind of behavioral conversation here to kind of see how you can better understand your audience from different passions and pain points. Right? This will enable you to kind of improve your product offerings by employing customer feedback, unearth different new ideas, and allow you to build new products and set expectations to tap into an unfulfilled needs of the customers here. So as you can see on the right-hand side, you'll have the different passion levels, different overall reactions to different content or products. So whether people like us, they love us, they hate us, are they anticipating the new product launch? What are the different drivers of cool for them? Are they looking for things that are going to be stylish or creative? These are the type of things that will help us to kind of build out the overall consumer profile so that we can figure out what the actual buyer persona types are that we're targeting. Okay. A perfect example of this, everybody knows Applebee's. Applebee's wanted to be able to identify more meal-related moments to help them create content relevant for those particular groups. Because what they were trying to do here is they're trying to tap into different occasions that they could be utilized for the consumers. Because not many people would think to go to Applebee's for the post-wedding rehearsal drinks and cocktails and things, right? So they want to be able to see exactly where people are going. Are they going out for karaoke moments, birthdays, retirement parties, and why aren't they considering them for this, right? So they want to be able to find these conversations, understand where people are getting their recommendations from to help drive and push more events like that into their restaurants. Okay. And this one here, the next use case that we have here is really kind of mapping and analyzing the customer journey. And this is one of my favorite use cases for driving consumer insights here, being that you're able to bring all of your customer verbatims together in a single platform. So that means your social data, your review sites, your email, surveys, call center, chat, just anywhere that you're having conversation about your brand, your product, your service, just being able to have it all in one place so that you can make sure that you really fully understand things and you're not getting any type of false positive reads or see that one source is kind of overbearing on the other that actually has more accurate information. When you have it all together in one place, you're able to compare these in a more complete and holistic view. Okay. So this is kind of one part of the process that we undertake when we're working with our clients to understand the overall customer journey. This is a more simplified version of this. Sometimes I have clients that have 7, 8 steps in the overall customer journey decision-making process. It really kind of depends on the type of product that we're monitoring for. But overall, there's 3 main steps that we're looking to identify here: the awareness and consideration, your actual purchase, and post-purchase and customer retention. Okay, so these are kind of the major steps that we're looking for. And the way we're doing this is we're kind of conversationalizing our Boolean to identify key trigger points that are going to indicate whether there was a purchase, an adoption, or post-purchase rejection by harnessing all the different reviews that we're getting across all the different sources that we're pulling from. Okay. Perfect example of this, I think everybody here knows Ford. We work with them at an international level here. We're across 5 different countries. And in their instance, they really wanted to better understand as a whole what went into the overall purchase process? What were people looking for when it came to vehicle characteristics, price, safety, security, fuel consumption? How, and then how were they treated at their dealerships? Or did they have a pushy salesperson there kind of pushing things down their throat? Did they have a good experience? Were there finance options available for them? Because now times are a little bit rougher and they need to finance things, right? And then overall, what were they feeling after that purchase? Are they going to be retained? Are they going to look elsewhere? This type of stuff. So you're able to have different perspectives here of what's driving these ultimate purchases, and especially when you're doing car shopping, as we all know, there's a lot of different variables that come into play. So this is an example of one that we just recently did. That was rather successful. Okay. And then discovering market trends in real time here. Okay. Overall, social media as a whole is probably the best real-time consumer insights tool that you can have because we're able to identify emerging trends more quickly and rapidly than ever before. Okay, especially when you can look at, in a single instance, historical data year over year to understand, is this an actual trend, or is this just a kind of a one-time thing that we need to be aware of? Is this a seasonal trend? Where do we need to kind of guide our product and development so that we're able to take advantage of these particular pain points or time periods in which people are in more of a buying phase, and across which channels should we be communicating to them with, and which regions of the world is this going to be happening in, right? So this is a perfect example of this, where Lenovo was trying to position their product in time with the Star Wars movie franchise, right? And especially when you're talking about virtual reality. Who doesn't want to have a lightsaber fight in virtual reality? That sounds pretty fun to me, at least. And so this is actually really cool, where they were able to time their launch of their product with the Star Wars movie franchise, so that they're able to kind of position it more for that type of stuff, as you can see here, right? So this led to them having an overall increase of awareness of almost 50% here, where you're able to have a better market penetration deeper and further than they initially thought, because they were able to time it with something that was happening in the real world that people are actually very much engaged with. And what better way to do that even with the Star Wars movie franchise, right? And this is just another example of just kind of influencer identification, where a lot more often than not, consumers as a whole, they're not listening to brands. They're listening to actual everyday people that are using these products to get recommendations for things. So this is an example of a client that we've been working with for a number of years, RDX Sports, which is like a mixed martial arts equipment product maker. And what they're doing here is just understanding and identifying and analyzing different influencers that they can use to potentially push their product further, to get better recommendations to the direct target that they're trying to target market that they're trying to penetrate in. Okay. Another use of this is going to be overall brand or reputation protection. Okay, especially now, or rather previously, when this pandemic first hit here, we had a big problem with the meat industry being criticized for not taking the proper precautions to protect their plant workers. Right, so Johnsonville Sausage here, they actually use this to identify and highlight the strengths of their members' efforts to continue to show appreciation and overall, safety precautions that were put in place to keep them protected, because Johnsonville was one of the few meat industry producers that was actually had no issues during this. So they wanted to continue to highlight that and push those efforts forward. Okay. And then the next use case here that we're going to be talking about is kind of turning data into actionable insights. Okay. So there is a kind of a 5-step process here that we're talking about when we're looking to go ahead and collect the information across all those different sources that we've been talking about. And then we're going to aggregate and analyze this conversation. From there, we're going to then validate this conversation to make sure that it's accurate, or it's not a fake news type of thing. And then we're going to derive different insights from it. And from there, we'll be able to kind of disseminate and share this conversation across all of the different teams that we need to be able to communicate with. Okay. In some instances, though, we don't necessarily have the time to do this. Okay, so Digimind does have an insights lab where we're able to produce these different type of deliverables for you. Okay, so this is an example of just some different things that can be created from our insights lab. ranging from consumer insights, market trends, influencer mapping, crisis management, brand reputation, competitive analysis, and campaign performance. Okay. And these are just some of the feedback that we've received from our clients, saying that they love us in the Insights Lab because it's not just an automated process. There is human expertise behind it to kind of get a better result. Because as we know, AI is great, but there are times where we need that human touch to make sure that it's actually perfect. Okay. And then this is just some of the resources that we do have available for you guys, and where we can talk about the essential criteria for marketing competitive intelligence, choosing the right social media listening tools, looking to leverage social listening for market research, and optimizing your overall web and social media monitoring. Okay. So for me, that's basically our presentation. I kind of wanted to make sure that we had enough time for questions and answers here. So if there's anything that you guys want to ask or you want me to refer back to, more than happy to do so. We can also go directly into a platform for a couple different examples if you'd like as well.
So, Vincent, thank you very much for the presentation. Some couple of really nice, great examples in there. So now I'd like to invite you all for the Q&A session, as we have discussed. So if you would have any follow-up questions to Vincent about the webinar, please, you can ask a question in two ways. The first way is to put it in the chat, and the second one is you can actually enable your camera, enable your microphone, and use the raise hand button, and we can actually put you live, and you can ask the question using your microphone and your camera. So if you have any questions, Vincent is here for you for a couple of more minutes. I believe, Vincent, you wanted to show us a bit more on the platform, how it works. So maybe we can start off with that, and in the meantime, if you have any questions, we can follow up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you guys a couple different examples here directly from the platform, what can be kind of achieved and done when we're talking about deriving consumer insights and driving overall.
Vincent?
Yep.
I think I switched off the screen sharing, so if you could put it back on.
No problem.
Yeah, that would work. And if you could arrange your microphone, I think it's making a bit of a noise.
Is that better?
Maybe now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better now? Okay, great. Okay. So basically, within the platform, Digimind does leverage an overall 5W methodology here. Okay, so it's going to be literally what, when, where, who, and how. So when we go into the main listening component, it's pretty easy to digest what's going on here. Literally, under the what piece is going to be your overall top of mind of subject matter, conversation drivers related to the queries that we're monitoring for. Within your when component here, this is going to be your trend line of conversation. Okay, and when in your where component, this is going to be just all the different sources that we're able to pull from. Okay, and so just so you can kind of see it where I was mentioning to you before in the actual presentation there, these are just some of the things that we're able to pull in for. So if I go back here and set the time range, okay, we'll let that load up. And now you're able to see, okay, now we have access to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, news, web, forums, blogs, Cinewebo, radio, TV, Reddit, WeChat, Tumblr, Naver, video, review sites, vContact, TensorQQ, any notes, surveys, or text message and email that comes into the platform as well. And all this conversation is all being captured in real time or next to real time, which is really very important. The only two that aren't being pulled in real time just because of how we go about capturing it, it's going to be your television or radio. Okay, so when you click on like TV here, my mouse would work, that'd be great. There we go. You'll see that basically what's going to happen, just due to different copyright laws, we're only going to have access to the audio or video within the platform for up to 30 days. After 30 days, we lose access to that particular audio or video clip. So what's going to happen, and the reason for the delay is we're going to transpose verbatim, word for word, what was said in that audio or video, so you have text to refer back to. Okay. I'm having a little bit of a slow internet connection here, so we'll see. There we go. So it's starting to load in. So you can see here, we have the audio or video clips pulled into the platform, and then we have the text here for you to refer back to when we no longer have access to the audio or video. Okay. And that's the reason for a little bit of a delay. And depending on the size of the audio or video file, there will be between like an hour to an hour and a half delay. All right. But now where the real power of this tool comes into play is when we go about creating different types of dashboards, because this just makes it really very, very digestible for our clients. Okay, so when we're talking about, just for instance here, we're talking about our consumer insights, right? So we want to be able to know where we're getting the most overall feedback, what's driving the conversation, what are things that people are looking for within our products. So in this instance, this example I have pulled up, some of the different attributes that people are looking for from Nike sneakers are going to be, design, comfort, sturdiness, grip. Then we have a kind of a share of voice model across the different product lines here. So what's kind of the most prominent product line? Is it the Air Jordan, the Zoom Pulse, the Vaporfly, the Air Monarch? Right, and you can pull that in here, and you can see the latest conversation side-by-side analysis to see what it's being associated with, have your latest consumer reviews. And then where this gets really very interesting and powerful here is we're able to pull in all the different apps that this conversation is coming from. So for Nike, they don't just use, your Zappos app or anything like that. They have their own personal apps like the Sneakers app, the Nike Run Club, Nike Training Club. So they want to be able to see what the share of voice is across those particular conversational pieces. And then we can pull in directly, any apps that are having a 1 to 5 star rating here. So if you can see here on the right hand side, let me zoom in a little bit here for you. Okay, that this particular section of the platform that we're looking at right now, this is going to show us reviews coming in from things like Dick's Sporting Goods, Kohl's, Zappos, Amazon, Foot Locker, and we'll be able to have access to that information right here, so you can kind of see what that share of voice looks like. So when you need to prioritize your responses or how you want to engage with these folks, you can choose the channels that you're doing it in. Right, and then if you go further still, when you're working with products that have actual physical store locations, if you want to track and see, whether your card, whether we're talking about cars, we're talking about clothing, we're talking about beauty products, there's still places that they actually go sell these things physically to people directly. So if you want to have an in-store shopping experience analysis here, you can put the different stores in here to see what their ratings are. So like right now we have Nike San Francisco and the Nike Factory store. So you're able to have access to that type of stuff, okay? So these are some of the things that you're able to pull in when we're talking about just understanding where we want to engage with our target market. What are the priorities that we should be talking about? Is there any particular things they're looking for when it comes to our products? So on and so forth here, okay? Another thing that we like to kind of do here when we're working with our clients is just do an overall kind of brand equity analysis. Okay, so this is kind of important for when you're talking about your brand protection, right? You want to be able to see exactly how you're currently situated, so we know what kind of falls outside the norm. Okay, so in this instance, we're talking about the different sports products that are being related to Nike. So is it basketball, baseball, football, tennis, NASCAR, yoga? We're talking about the different passion levels. So do they like us? Do they love us? Do they hate us? Our brand values trend over time. So a lot of clients now, that especially during this stay-at-home era, they're trying to decide what type of conversations they want to get involved in. Right? Is it going to be worth it? Because there's a lot of civil rights movements. There's a lot of different pandemic-related issues that are happening, and so on and so forth here. And so what you can actually see is an understanding of how people are kind of associating with us. Right? Are our brand values being conveyed appropriately or not? Okay, and this will kind of also help guide you as to whether or not you should be engaging in certain conversations, because if it's not in line with your overall brand values, why are we engaging with this? So we should just kind of keep quiet about it, right? And then going further still here to see your perception by channel, your consumer perception, understand where your reputation lies across different geographies here, pulling in your overall trend over time, your brand sentiment, your share of voice across your different product lines, across your competition here. These are just a few of the things that we'll pull into this type of dashboard, okay? But kind of going more into what we're using the tool for a lot today, if I can go into a different database very quickly here. Let's load up. There we go. So in this database, this is going to be a lot more kind of corporate social responsibility focused, okay? Would be a little bit different of a use case here, okay, where we can kind of understand and see what type of topics we really want to be tackling, Okay, and so when we go ahead and load this thing up, this is going to be related to an agricultural company, right? So they want to be able to understand what are the kind of the most prominent things we should be either getting involved in or being aware of. Okay, so it's economic growth, is it farmer livelihood, sustainability, water resources, deforestation, climate change, water scarcity, clean water sanitation, land usage, this type of stuff, right? And then you can kind of work your way across here to see, okay, well, which one do we really need to be pushing the forefront on as our overall content? What's the trend over time look like of it? Our share of voice breakdown with this, and for agricultural companies right now, they're all getting knocked around because, yes, we do have a population explosion, but we need to be able to kind of find a more sustainable way to farm the land that we have as opposed to chopping more forest down. So should we be really involved in that deforestation conversation? Should we look at more kind of sustainability, climate change, economic growth, whatever the case is here. Okay. So these are just some of the things that you can definitely do within the platform that can kind of derive different content creation ideas, understand your total target audience, and really kind of further your messaging along, down the pipe.
Interesting. One question, Vincent. I mean, how much detail can you actually extract? I mean, these are more, let's say, general data, and how much detailed information on the conversation you can extract also from those?
As much as you like. So everything within the platform is all interactive, right? So if I wanted to better see more of the conversation surrounding the deforestation, you go ahead and click on it. It'll take you directly to that conversation here. Okay. And then you can kind of work your way across our 5Ws to see exactly what was going on. Okay, so you can see exactly what the main conversation was in deforestation. You can see when this conversation was unfolding, what channels this was happening in, who the thought leaders in that conversation were. Right, so there's a lot of different groups that are trying to protect the forest. The Greenpeace movement and all that type of stuff. So if you want to see who kind of was the forefront of that, if anyone we want to get on our side or something, you'll be able to see the influence of the conversation, how people felt about it, so on and so forth. So you can go very definitely a number of layers deep on it. It all depends on what you're actually looking for. Okay, so it depends on what the overall conversational analysis needs to be. All right, so to kind of give you guys a little bit different of an example here, let me just pull this up.
There is also a question in the chat asking about if you could tell a bit more about historical search.
Historical search, sure. So basically within Digimind, by default, any query that's created is going to go back the last 7 days unless we tell it otherwise. So when it comes to the overall historical search analysis, it's going to depend on the network that we're pulling from. So some networks we can go back as far as 2006, others as far back as 2010. Digimind does have its own historical database that we pull from. So on average, I'd say our general rule of thumb with us is we can typically go back about 2 years across all the platforms. Any other questions?
No, I think the questions in the chat for now.
The other thing I want to show you guys very quickly here, just while we're on it, because it is still fairly new, is how we're going about capturing the LinkedIn conversation, right? Because this is a new source that everybody's trying to leverage and utilize for different insights. And I'll be the first to tell you, LinkedIn is great. I think there's a lot of potential there, but most of the conversation on LinkedIn is private. And that's just a fact. They're in different groups and stuff, and so right now we're able to capture all the public conversation, but there's still more to come. Okay, it's not going to be like a silver bullet to save B2B conversation, because the fact is, a lot of conversation that's happening is going to be in private chats. But at the very least, right now, when we're looking at this, if I pull in here my media type sources, and I go into LinkedIn. You can see that we are pulling in the LinkedIn conversation, anything that's publicly available. So this is a good start point when you're trying to figure out what that B2B conversation looks like, if you're trying to identify key stakeholders, if you're doing account-based marketing type of things. So it's all depending on what you're looking to really kind of ascertain or identify, really. This is different things that we can actually do here. So it'll be coming not just from personal accounts, it'll be coming from actual business accounts as well. And it's going to be keyword based. So depending on the keywords that you're monitoring for, that's the conversation that will be able to be pulled in. Okay, so this is something that's kind of new and unique here. All right.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. It's definitely, to my knowledge, we're one of the first ones to actually have access to this. So this has been kind of on the forefront and something that's going to be leveraged a lot more for our B2B clients. They want to have more kind of business professional sources to pull from. So they can identify, who the stakeholders are in the organization, when they're in a purchase decision making mode. Are they in an evaluation period, things of that nature? Because typically people will post on LinkedIn that our organization is in evaluation mode. So this will be really good for identifying that type of stuff as well, new opportunities for the organization. Right?
Perfect.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Uh, if anyone would have a question besides the questions in chat, you can also raise your hand and we can put you on audio and on video to ask a question live to Vincent. But for now, I see we do not have any more questions in the chat. I think that what you have shown us and also getting us inside the on the platform gave a lot of details to our participants on how much information they can actually gather from different platforms as well. The LinkedIn is definitely something new. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
From Renata actually coming through the chat, which is, do you work with pharma clients and in particular in the mental health space?
So we do absolutely work with a number of pharma clients, and we work with them in all different capacities. So we work with a lot of the. Actually, I can show you here to just give you guys an example. Some things that we can do in that type of space. This is a report that we just recently did in 2019. Yep, in 2019, right before COVID hit, which was an analysis of the entire pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so this is kind of cool because it shows literally every single use case that we can kind of accommodate for within this particular report. Okay, so this is going through and understanding the hotspots to monitor on social media, the common issues discussed across the social media channels, what the patients are feeling, the affordability and accessibility to healthcare, the vaccination conversation, competitive intelligence through understanding mergers and acquisitions, if there's any particular risks to the organization with new technology that's becoming available, that type of stuff. So to show you just a little bit here, when we're looking through, to give you some examples of things that we do work with them on, and specifically, if I scroll right on through, okay, here. So see, these are some of the conversations that we did to identify consumer concerns, right? Where we're looking at new market segments, detect preferred methods of administration for different drugs usage and stuff, and understanding what the actual health issues were that people were trying to find solutions to from these pharmaceutical clients, right? So what are the most common issues discussed across these channels, right? So was it cancer? Was it affordability, healthcare pricing? Was it access to healthcare? We're talking about mental health. So we do work with a lot of aspects of the organization when we're talking about this. So this is kind of a more generic version where we're seeing which kind of healthcare issue is more prominent for the consumers. When it comes to the overall mental health and well-being, there's definitely more specific examples I could give that could kind of give you offline here. But we do a lot for pharmaceutical companies as a whole, as you can see here, looking through and just understanding what's going on with the patients, the progress on their illness, understanding if different applications or medications are now in clinical trial phases. What phases are they in? Where are they, and where if there's any type of side effects, if there's been any type of regulational changes from the government or the FDA. There's a lot of different positions that you can take on this here, right? And then just overall understanding your consumer concerns, what the feedback was from them when we're looking at this to understand how they felt about, to vaccinate or not vaccinate, and then going further still into understanding exactly what's going on with like the opioid crisis in America. Scrolling through a little bit more here. And then going through like the competitive advantage of this type of stuff where you can understand things through what's going on in the mergers and acquisitions. Are people looking to collaborate? Are they looking to actually buy one another out? Are they trying to just overtake each other? So you can see here we kind of were monitoring for Abbott Laboratories, Bristol Myers, Amgen, Johnson Johnson, Pfizer, Bayer, Novartis, etc. So were they doing collaborations, acquisitions, mergers? So there's a lot of different facets that we kind of work with them in. So long answer short, we absolutely work in the pharmaceutical space. We do a lot of stuff ranging from the healthcare perspective, medical devices, anything to involve mental health. We do a lot with the actual medications that they're producing, so they can kind of track things more openly. Because now, as we're especially pushing out more vaccines and stuff, they need to be able to be aware of what people's feedback are on different things. So there's definitely a lot more different use cases that we've been, working with them in.
Perfect.
Okay. I hope that answers your question. And I'm more than happy to share this example report with you as well.
I think your colleague Durga already put the link in the chat as well for the report. So um, if Renate have any follow-up questions, you can definitely contact Vincent or Durga. They can help out. I mean, thank you very much, Vincent, for joining us today for this great webinar and taking us a trail platform. And thank you, all of our participants for joining. And have a great day.
Yep. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Bye.